Welcome, everybody. We're happy to have you with us here tonight. This is the quilt I was quilting last time we were here with the, let me think, sound waves patterns or templates. It looks like this, the sound waves. We actually used this one here. I have played around with the other side and I like it just as well. So I just wanted you to see how it turned out. It's rather random. You can see down into my borders. That's the way I intended for it to be. And since I've been gone for the last month, I haven't had a chance to actually get it bound, but I'll show you clear over to the edge what it's looking like. So I'm going to pull this up so that you can see clear up. This is a panel, if you remember correctly. The templates I'm going to share with you tonight would be another way that you could easily and quickly do a panel or any type of a large quilt, actually. So, a lot of fun. It was amazing to me that after we did our event, I came back over the next day and finished it up because usually they find themselves folded for a couple of weeks at least. Well, usually months, right, Megan? She's not even going to answer that. So, anyway, we've got some fun tonight. I had a couple templates that needed cleaned, so I decided I was going to save one of them so I can show you how that works because many people ask, what do I do in my templates? And I have to tell you, since the beginning of the year, I've been on the road 8 weeks and this is only May 1st. So my templates were getting pretty well used and maybe you could almost say abused. But Megan, can you get me some paper towels so I can use them right here on my table? So what I'm going to be using tonight is I am going to use a microfiber cloth. I am going to use what is called Off, the Incredible Remover. And if you don't find this, I'm fairly certain it's on my website. And it is safe for these types of acrylics. And obviously a template. Now I just replaced my, now you can get the stable tape and dots. So I had just replaced it. So we're going to clean the back, but we're not taking those dots off. But if you were going to clean the front and the back and replace your stable tape, then you would go ahead and take them off at this point. Now I am going to remove and replace my little marks here. And these two are actually, when I stitch on my feathers, if I stitch from here to here, they are the distance that I like to use when I'm doing what I call my candy cane feathers. So rather than go up, I go down and I have to know what distance I'm going on that. So if somebody reminds me, maybe at the end, I'll show you that so that we can understand what I have those on there for. But I use ruler work or ruler stickers a lot. This is what they look like if you haven't seen ruler stickers. And they are repositionable. So I could have saved all of those and put them back on, but I decided just to take them completely off. So this is the right side of my template and it's getting kind of grungy. And I know you can probably see a little bit that up there. But what I do is I'm going to spray this onto my cloth, not my template, because then I can control where it goes. And I'm just going to wipe that template down. And like I said, I just put a layer of paper towel down just to keep it from my just freshly polished table. Now I'm going to hold this up to the light just so I can see. Oh my goodness, that looks so much better. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe that down. Now I'm going to turn it over and spray again. And I'm going to do the same thing here, just not get near my dots, because I don't want them coming off, and that spray would take them off of there.
How often do you need to replace those dots or staple tape?
As far as the stable tape, because this is stable tape, they just now make an option that you can get them in the dots. I start feeling them slip. So when I start feeling them slip, I know it's time to replace those. And so, man, that looks like a new template. I know you won't believe me on that because you can't really see it, but you can see that shine there. So what I'm going to do now is, this is my little cloth that came with my table polish. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of table polish. I mean, not very much, just a little bit. And I'm going to go over that template because it's the same material as my acrylic table. Now you may be wondering, why would I want this to slip? It's not that I want it to slip. It's that I really kind of need to remove the residue from that cleaner. And this is pretty much the best way to do that. So now I'm just going to take my paper towel, because I don't want it slipping as far as having any kind of stickiness on it. And this time I'm not even going to put any more on it. There's my spot that I was using. I'm just trying to read some of your comments. I saw somebody said they were going to go over to YouTube. It is over there. I do not know why it's not on Westerly by me, but that link was not available tonight. So for some reason, I couldn't post there. All right. So
But please note, any comments that are or questions on YouTube, I won't be able to see.
Okay, I can see them on here, so I'll try to watch. Megan, have you checked to see if this is on my website? You want my phone to do that?
I can check.
So now what I would do with this is to replace, because when I get ready to teach, I like to have my ruler stickers on here already, so I don't have to deal with that. Well, I can't even get into my bag. There we go. It's got a clear at the bottom. So what I usually do with this is I just stick that inside so that it's not sticky on my template there. And I do color code some things. I'm not color coding this other than the fact that I say where to put it. And this is the line that I use to come back to. And then obviously when I'm starting, I line it up with this center line. So that way when I'm teaching, I can show that. This one's a little bit crooked. Let's pull that off and redo. All right. And then I'm going to take a different color to make my little markings. And this is not just for somebody that I'm showing how to do that. This is actually measurements that I use. Otherwise, my feathers would be all different sizes when I did that particular type.
So a question has come through. Do you prefer the new dots over the stable tape strips?
I don't have a preference over them really. The only thing about the dots is they're already cut. You don't have to cut them or anything. So, and I haven't, paid any attention to the economics of it, of which one's a better price, but I can tell you that stable tape is the way to go. So it just makes it so much easier. I can't believe how much better that template looks. I'm not sure what this little black spot is down here at all. I didn't use any kind of heavy cleaner on it, so I didn't really get it off. I mean, I've got it shined up and all of that. So anyway, anybody else have any questions on that? Okay.
You had asked if that remover was on your website. It is, and I have dropped the link in the comments on the Facebook page.
Okay, so Megan says it's there. If you didn't hear that, the link, and she's put the cleaner on there. You're not going to use a whole lot of that. And it does make it so your templates, and like I said, I did go back with the polish. I like that, the feel of it. And, I just use the microfiber cloth and some paper towels. So I now have a nice and clean feather template ready to hopefully remember to show you at the end. And if you guys don't have table polish for your tables, you really need to invest in that because it's from So Steady. See if I can find, this is the little bottle, table and insert polish. New tables as of like the last 4 months are coming with a little tiny one. And so it's in there. It's just a sample, but this is available. And again, you can get that from So Steady or your local quilt shop. And we're going to get started.
As you're moving things around to get started, the remover, for those in the UK and other places that can't get it, any other recommendations?
Just make sure you get something that says safe on plastic. This is not plastic, but it's an acrylic. And you don't want to get something that is going to damage any kind of acrylic like that.
Yeah, Windex is not good.
No, Windex, don't use Windex on your templates. You would honestly be better to use even like a little dot of sewing machine oil to clean it. That will take the stuff off too. And then wax and polish them up with your table and polish cleaner. But yeah, a little bit of, I would use what's called Tri-Flow oil. This right here, something like this, or even your sewing machine oil. This is what I use for my sewing machine, but you can find sewing machine oil a little bit easier than you can find that. All right, so we are ready to get started on tonight's, I don't know whether to say project, and no, there's no handouts, okay? No handouts. So somebody said they were having trouble downloading it. I don't even know where you found one. So no handouts. So I'm going to be using, first of all, the circles and straights. And so I have got my machine set with my regular foot. My thread, I'm actually going to be quilting with it and doing these circles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up this line across from my needle and this line straight out from my needle. And some of you are wondering, so what happens if my bobbin runs out? Just take what I call the lead end down here, slide it underneath, do whatever you need to do, and then slide this back. I have sold probably 600 of these in the last month at the different shows. And I will tell you, there is so much you can do with this. And for those of you that are wondering, are there classes? Yes, in January, I started what was called Circle Society, and it's on the university. You can pick up from now and go forward and just watch those or take those classes. Or for $60, you can buy the whole bundle. That's like getting 2 classes free. And you can go back and do the first 2 classes on your own time. Now, I believe it's this Wednesday coming up is going to be the preview class for the next Circle Society. And it's going to be quilted, strip quilted placemats. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. There's no ruler work in it. We are going to be using some decorative stitches. We're going to be using a jelly roll, but you could cut strips. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's a great project for any of you that are, well, anybody, but especially if you're just a little timid about doing any kind of piecing or, you know, that kind of thing. But you're going to need one of the circles and straights tools and some of your decorative stitches. But on Wednesday, we will be telling you what the supplies are in the preview. Now, the preview is something anybody can watch. And then those of you that want to join can join. So I believe it's at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not certain, but I know it's on the So Steady Facebook page. All right. So what I'm going to do today is we are going to be using our background fills. Now, I'm going to do this in a couple of steps so that we will have the right stuff on the machine at the right time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to decide how big a circle I want here in the center. And my whole decision of this is going to be how big of an embroidery, because I plan to put an embroidery in here. So I think I want my circle to be about that big, which means I need to put it, the center of it right there, and that's at 7 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my circles and straights bar here, and I'm going to put that on the 7-inch, and I'm putting this etching right on that line, and this one right on the 7. Now, I don't want to push down too hard or I'll never be able to get it back up. So now, because I've marked the center of my fabric, and just for those of you that are just tuning in, we are doing several different things tonight. So now I'm going to be showing you the circles and straights. I have a backing. I have a fusible fleece, which I use a ton of because this is most likely going to end up a pillow. And it makes it look so much better when I have used the fusible fleece as the lining. It gives it support, it gives it body, and it makes it easy to work with. Now, what I'm doing right now is getting exactly in that center. There we go. I'm going to put this pin on, but not completely down. And so now I am going to make a 7-inch circle. Yes?
How do you clean that blue straights bar?
That straights bar and the mat together, if you will just wipe them with a baby wipe that has no aloe vera and no alcohol in it, you will have a nice cling again. So here we go with my 7-inch circle. So what my intentions are is when I get all of this done, I am going to go back and put this on my embroidery machine and do an embroidery. And I haven't decided. I may use one of our embroideries from the sampler set collection. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right to where I started, and I am going to touch my bullseye on this because this is the lining. It's not the back. So I touch the bullseye, let the machine stitch until it stops. When I said the bullseye, it's the finish button, whatever's on your machine. And now I'm going to touch the cutter because I overlapped about 5 stitches. So again, I started in a kind of a busy place so that it wouldn't show when I got finished with that. So I've made one circle. Now here's a little hint. I can pick this up, that whole bar, and move it over. Or if I just want to frame this with like an echo, I could go ahead and simply move my needle either left or right. So let's see how far we can get it over there so that we can get like that echo. All right, I think that's going to work really well. So let's just go ahead, because I could have moved everything, or I can just move my needle. If I wanted those two farther apart and not move this, I could have moved it left to begin with and then to the right and got it even farther apart. And all I'm doing, you guys, I'm not guiding anything. I'm just holding this flat so that it goes right around there. And I think you can see how cool that is to have those frames, so to speak. So we're coming back here, getting pretty close to where we started. Overlap, touch that finish button again, and use my cutter. Now I'm not going to go back and cut on the back because I might have just cut off my knot, and I don't need to, because as again I said, that's the lining. It's not going to be the back side. So I'm going to raise my foot up. I've taken that off, and I'm going to pull that off. So you can see now I've got this nice little circular frame. You could have done that with the Circles on Quilts template also, but since I have the circles and straights, that just seemed to make it easier. You saw how I just pulled that aside, and I'm going to take this off and immediately put the backing back on it. Don't just leave it lay around to what I would call dry out, because that's not good for it. You're probably going to have to, every single time you use it, if you do that, you're going to have to clean it to get it revived again. And I don't think you want to do that. I keep mine right back in its container. And if you have the ones that have the 3 dots, which are the later ones, you're going to cover those with their paper. So I'm going to leave that to set aside. I'll do that just a little bit later.
A question came in. You mentioned the Circle Society classes. Does the $60 fee include the circle tools for the classes, or just the classes?
That's just the instruction. You would need to get your own circles and straights tool. And then I tell you each time what you're going to be using for supplies. That's in the pre-class. And then you have about a month to get them before it actually happens. And you can use your own. There's only been one time so far we've had any kind of a kit for it. All right. We're going to do, this is one of the back pieces. And we're going to do this first to get the hang of how to do background fills. Because what I want to do is teach you how to do the background fills around that centerpiece, because of the fact that we don't want it to look interrupted. Because the whole idea of the background fills is they kind of make diagonals, and I really wanted to do one of the other background fills, but since this fabric has circles in it, I think we've got to do the circles. So I have got 6 pieces of stable tape on this. The one thing, and you need to listen up on this, I guess. Well, first of all, Donelle, while you're talking, how about we get a glider? You need to think about your machine and how far you can lift with the extra lift. So if you watch my foot here, I've got extra lift there. When it comes to the end of where you're at for your stitching and you need to go through that needle, that needle pathway, you've got extra lift. if you don't have extra lift and your machine calls for high shank, I would get low shank templates, because you don't want to have the struggle of getting it underneath and through there. I'm going to get out one of my newer mats here. That one was not clinging. So if you don't have that extra lift on your machine, make sure if you're buying high shank, normally just get low shank templates. You'll see why here in just a few minutes. So I have drawn my starting line, which is the only line that you really need to draw, is one either in the center or wherever you've determined needs to be. Now, this is a pillow back that's going to be like an envelope. So there's going to be another side to this. So I just went a little bit off center so that it will look right when it goes together. Now, of course, I've got to get my foot changed to my ruler foot and my settings changed. And I have missed actually doing a project. I've been doing a lot of teaching, but I haven't actually done a project in over a month. Actually, meeting with you guys was the last time I had the opportunity. So I always start with my thread down in the loop of my foot. And when you put that down there, all you need to do is slide your fabric sideways and that thread will come through there. So we're going to start down here at the bottom. And I'm going to put my circle.
Hold on, before you go, several of them are asking, are you sure your needle's in center? At least in the camera, they say it looks like it's to the right.
Well, it's in the center.
Okay.
So it wasn't a while ago because I moved it, but now when I set it for this, it's in the center. So I'm going to decide, I'm going to probably have a 3/8 inch hem here. So I'm going to decide what my line is across there. And so let's see here. If there's my stitch right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to mark a line across there. I have sprayed here with my starch, and I want it to be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use my centering ruler because I can see through it very well. And I'm going to draw a line. That is not my stitching line. That is my line where I'm going to stop my stitching as I go through here. So I'm going to be able to line this line that's across my template, and I'm going to line this up, and I've got a line right here. There's an etching here and a line right there. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to start right here at the bottom, but I never put my foot down next to my template. I come to the template now, put my needle down, and just because I'd like to have control of my thread, I'm going to go ahead and raise that foot up, pull up on the thread, and just get in there with my tweezers to pull that out. So again, foot down and needle down. And I'm looking through to the back to make sure I've got everything lined up. This one, you have to go 1.5 times around. And all I'm really going for is the impression, so to speak, of what I'm doing. I don't really desire for that thread to be brilliantly showing or anything. I'm going for the impression. So now what I'm doing is I lift up that extra lift and put my foot back down because I went through that pathway, and I like to do this upside down. And the reason for that is it will stop me. So I need to go 2 inches. There's my 2-inch line right there. And what I'm going to do is, and I would do this whether you guys were watching me or not, and that is to make a couple of arrows. I'm not going to make arrows, but there's my lineup line. And that way I can quickly see it. And again, this is a reminder to get yourself a chair where you can look down on that and see that it's straight. Look through there. And now when I stitch the straight part, it stops me. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this through, line that up, and do another circle. Now I like to alternate, so I'm going to go back this way. So the double stitching is on either side. I lift this up and come all the way down. Make sure this is lined up in the back. And once you get the hang of this, this will go very quickly. Now, I've had people ask me, do I have to do it upside down like that? I don't call it upside down, but I would rather work away from me like that than work towards me. So it's totally up to you. Yes, Megan, you have a question?
A couple come in. What kind of needle are you using?
90 top stitch, or in the case of my Janome, I'm using what's called a purple tip, which is equivalent to a 90 top stitch.
What markers do you use?
I used a Frixon fine line marker, but I sprayed this first with not with Best Press. I use Starch Savvy. Best Press will work though. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch up here. But I have gone my 2 inches and there's really no room for a circle, but I'm going to go ahead and complete that pattern to the edge just because of the fact that that way it will be in my seam allowance. Now I need to come over to this right here. So when I'm doing this and I don't have the option, I need to actually come back to here. So you're going to see what I'm saying. So all the markings that I need are on my ruler. So all I need to do now is do this. Okay. So I am at the bottom and this is where the next one will start. Now, just be patient with me because it takes a little while to get the hang of this. So I'm going to turn this way. You will notice that's a straight line there and the circle starts there. So that means this is going to be a circle. So what I'm going to do is I've not moved this template. I'm going to come up here so it's going to be in my seam allowance. And I'm going to do a straight stitch over to that line. Okay, so now I need to do a straight stitch down to this starting point. So now I need my circle because I'm alternating them. So I'm lining up this line right on this edge. I'm right in the center. And all I got to do is do my circle. And I'm right back to that center. And remember, we didn't mark a line. I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to bring it down to this spot. And you can see again, I'm just lined up with that line I marked to start with. I'm going to stitch down. And I'm going to look over here to see, did I make that line long enough? And it looks like I need maybe 1/8 more. So I'm just going to scroll or move that down so that this line across here lines up with the bottom of that circle. So all of your corrections are built right into the template. So now that line's at the bottom. This one is at the top. That means I'm going to do a 2-inch circle. Pick it up, come to those arrows. Those are marked right to the center there. And this time my correction worked because that's right lined up. I line up this side. I come down. Now I'm going to push this up. That's still lined up. This is still lined up. The sides lined up. I'm going to go back this way this time. Pick up that extra lift and slide right through. All of those same markings are working for you. You remember where we started on that line. So I've still lined up here, but I'm going to go a little bit further this time because I want to get out here in my margin. So once I'm in the margin, I need to come across 2 inches. Again, this is built in. All you got to do is line that up with your needle. Oh, this is tricky because my stable tape was hanging on. So I just kind of need to get over there so that stable tape's not hanging on. Now I'm going to go ahead. You see the circle over here, the straight line here, which means we're ready for a circle. It's lined up again on this side of the stitching that you just did. We're going to take this and go up. That's lined up. The sides lined up. We're ready for a straight line. And you can see why I go backwards because I really have that stop built in there. And then I'm going to take this, line it up again, line it up with previous stitching. And I realize you can't see it as well because of the fact that I didn't draw a line. But honestly, when you get the hang of this and you get everything lined up to start and you use your lines to your advantage, this goes very quickly. And remember, I have a high shank machine and I have high shank templates here, and you can see I've got the extra lift and I'm having no trouble. But if your machine doesn't have that extra lift in the back, because it comes up to here, but look how high I can lift over that lift. So check on that before you order, because you might need to buy low shank because of that. Now we're going to do the same thing here, only we don't have to move to the side. So I'm just going to take this and go out here, back down, and over to there. And then I'm just going to do a little side stitch because that's going to be in my seam allowance. So you can see how we have gotten those diagonals going right along there. So how that works. So what I would do then is either start at the bottom or turn it around, because it doesn't really matter which is bottom or top. But I would go ahead and I would lay this right here. And again, with my marker, that's going to be one of my lines so that I know where it starts, because you can see I've got half pieces here. So let's take this. The first thing we're going to do is a straight line. So I'm just simply going to bring this in, line it up. See how that just lined up there? And I'm going to start here, but that straight line, let's see, yeah, needs to stop at the normal spot right there. So I've got that lined up. So all I'm going to do is a straight line from down here up to that spot right there. And then I'm going to, oh, no, Donnell, you needed a circle. Woo, good. Got that seam ripper handy. Only have about 15, 18 stitches there. So I'm just going to get those out of there because that needed to be a circle. So I needed to stop at the purple line. Somebody probably figured that out before I made the mistake. If it was only the first one I made today. So, you know, life goes on. All right. So those of you in California, I'm going to be coming your way. Megan's coming with me to Cali Quilts it's in the Sacramento area. I'm not sure what little surrounding, but it's called Cali Quilts. We'll be there on Friday and Saturday, the first weekend in June. So that's going to be fun. So let's try this again. This time we'll stop at the pink arrow. So we're going to move up. I will tell you that this thread is actually a silvery gray color, not one that you would necessarily thought would be what I would choose for this, but because it has some metallic in it, I think it worked really well. Now, once you get good at all of this, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but once you get familiar with this, you could actually even measure from the center out each way. You would never start in the center, but you can measure from the center out, so you wouldn't have like a difference in what's at the top and the bottom. I pretty much don't let that bother me. And these are also the templates that will work with the paddle. If you haven't seen the new paddle, I'll show you that. I won't be able to use it in this project, but I'll show you. So when I get to right here, there's really no use of doing anything else. So I'm just going to push that to the margin. I'm going to take this, I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to stitch that far over in the margin. And now the first thing will be a circle. So I need to stitch straight up to the line. So there's the line. I really didn't need to pull that through. And I'm going to line up over on this side. This is Background Fills 2-inch. And it comes with all 4 of these, but you can buy individual. You don't have to buy all 4 of them. But I use these on panel prints also, or large quilts. Megan and I pulled out one like, oh, I don't know, it's been a couple years ago now. that was an older Halloween panel. It was cute, but it looked a whole lot better after we got done putting our stitches. And I don't remember. We might have used circles. I don't remember what we used on it. But it made it look so much nicer than it did before. So again, I'm lining this line up where I've put my marks with the top of that circle and the sides lined up here. And you can see that this edge over here is going to be in my seam. So I'm not going to do anything more than the rest of this line, because it's really not going to make any difference because it's going to be stitched. So I made sure I had this one so it came within a 1/2 inch of this edge there. So let's just finish this up real quick so we can go to the other side. So I came down there and I'm going to stitch off of here and then just go ahead and cut it. And without the marks, you can see what this looks like, how that goes across there at a diagonal. Really kind of fun, especially on this fabric. So anyway, I got a loose thread here. I think I'll cut that out while I see it. It's on the back. It really wouldn't matter, but there you go. Half of that back is finished. So now we are going to learn how to do quilting around so we don't quilt into this area right here. So I need to do a little bit of measuring. I've told you that this is a 2-inch circle. When it's finished, that's a 2-inch line. So the design itself is about 4 inches. And let's see what we've got here. So from there to there is 5 inches. So I need to decide in this case, what do I want around this area? This up here from there to there is 7 inches, because remember I made a 7-inch circle. So if I want to make this so that when I'm working on it, it balances out, from here to here would be 9 inches. Yep, 9 inches. It's 9 inches down here. So let's see how we're going to do this. I would say I'm going to do, what did I say this was here? About 5.5. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that half just like I did on the other side. So now I've got 5 inches. I really don't want a circle coming right up to that edge right there. I'd like it to be out here. So what I'm going to do is, rather than sew down here 2 inches, I'm going to start in the margin, because I don't want to have to pull up my threads or anything like that. So I'm going to start in that margin, and from the line, I'm going to sew 1 inch. So this is pointing at the line. And now I'm going to sew 1 inch right on the line. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to make my circle. So that's 1. And that's 2, making 3. So if I've done this the way my intentions were, that should mean that I will end, and it looks like I'm going to. Right there's my circle. So I'm just going to tweak my line right there. And just so you can see it, I'm going to go sideways this time. So I'm stitching that line, And I am going to just stitch back a few stitches, and I'm going to go ahead and knot it. And I'm going to cut it. So now I've started my pathway of what's going to happen. So I don't want to interrupt that. So I'm going to be coming down. I work to the side, around, and then fill back in. And you'll see why I say that. So now I am going to have to start with a half a circle. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to line it up on the line here. I am going to, I'm going to line this up with that right there. Because the reason I have to do that is because I need to stitch out here in the margin, but I'm going to be doing this shape. So let's get this here in the margin and stitch over and then go around and back up to the center line. And then I'm going to come up, line up, because there's a circle. I need a 2-inch straight line. Now I need a circle. Line up here. Now I need a line. It's not going to make it farther than that. That's all that it's going to be. So I'm going to bring this down and make sure that line stops me and do that little back stitch. Knot it off and cut. Now, if you were doing this on a solid red fabric or any color of fabric where it wouldn't hide that back stitching, you would not, or I shouldn't, back stitching and tying off, you wouldn't do it that way. But when you've got a busier fabric like this, you're going to be fine with that. Now, again, the side of the template lines up with that line. We need to do a straight line. So I'm putting this right here, because that's where I want to stop. I'm putting that right at the top of that half circle we did. I'm going to start down here. And I'm going to do my straight line. I'm just going to kind of back tack it. And I'm going to move this, line up on the side again. I'll tilt it so you can see it, because right there it is. And do the circle. I'm going to move up, line up, line this up with the line, and it's clear up there that I'm looking at. No, it's not. It's right there. And we are going to do our 2-inch line. And now we have to really, I'm going to turn this around so you guys can see all of it. Right there's the edge of my circle from this inside. So I'm going to line this up. And that circle is not going to overlap that, because I can get my spacing gauge and show you. It's going to come right beside it, but it's not going to overlap it. If it did overlap, it really wouldn't matter. I would probably stop it down here where it touched first and then go back the other way and come back here. But we're not going to have that issue because it's not overlapping. I dropped a spool of thread and I have to get it, or Mr. Musket will get it. And it will be all over the place. All right. Now is the time when it's good to make this extra line. because this ruler is 2 inches wide and I don't have any stitching to work off of. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this so that I have something to line up with. Kind of cool how all those tools work together, isn't it? So now we're at the top of a circle. You can see there it just came together about 1/8 of an inch apart. And I need a straight line. I need to line up here. I've got that in that position. We're now away from the circle is going to be right in here. So that's where you're going to come to the circle. And come back. So I've got a circle there from the inside circle. It'll be easier to see here in a second. Line this up so that that's lined up there. Stitch. We're still lined up over here. And this is going to be longer than 2 inches. So I'm just going to keep it lined up here, come out in this margin, and then I just use my template because I need to come back now and fill in this space. So I'm going to come across here to that line. And now we've got to decide. There's a circle, which means there needs to be a circle up there. So right across here, and I don't usually do this, but I'm going to do it for you guys so you can see it. Right there's where the bottom of my circle needs to end its stitching. So I'm going to come through here, and this line that's across there will need to line up with that. It's lined up there. So now all I need to do is kind of come out in that margin and come back to the center. Line it up, line up over here, stitch down, and now we're going to have a circle again. And there's our inner circle. So I'm lined up. I'm going to go to this side first, touch my circle, come back around, touch my circle, and back stitch. Or reverse or backtrack or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to knot it and I'm going to cut it. Because at this point, there's nowhere for me to get over here to finish this part. Even though my pattern is still working through all of this, I'm going to have to go back up here and notice again, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to draw that line because this is a circle, this is going to be a straight. So I'm going to put that down, my foot down, and I'm going to do a straight right to that point. I'm going to come up here. This is where this inner circle starts, so I've got plenty of room there to do my circle. And then I'm going to do a straight that stops right there. We've got lines to line up. And I'm just going to come down there and do that back again. Tie off. And cut. So now we have filled this back in and not interrupted any of our pattern. We got to come over here. And again, I'm going to take this and mark it. I really probably wouldn't, but I want you to be able to see where my goals are. So I'm just going to go across like that whole thing there. I need to do a straight line that's 2 inches long in the margin. So this is lined up. I come across, that's my 2 inches. This is straight, so we have to do a circle. And again, the lines on here are what are going to line up on that line. This is going to go down the side. I'm going to kind of go back around and come back down to that point right there. Straight line. This is going to be a piece of cake. There's really no measuring at all, except for what we already have done. We don't have any center to stop for. Pull through, line up, and stitch our straight line. Come through. Megan left me, so I better scroll down here and see. Is there a slider for the sit down Sweet 16? Yes, I would probably recommend, Joanne, that you use the ruler work glider, and maybe even the white one. I think, Kay, I might have answered that. How do you clean the bar? It isn't sticky anymore. That's again with a baby wipe. Have I ever done this using a double needle? That kind of scares me when I go around that circle. I'm not sure that would work. I'm reading to see if they have any questions, so just hang on a minute. Okay. I'll let Megan read the last part there.
I don't have any new questions on my end, so.
Okay. So now you can see I've got like just a partial circle here that needs to be done again at the bottom. And that's just a matter of coming out here and going back down here. Now you'll notice if I come through this way, I really don't have 2 inches. That's going to be totally off over there. But I could find this center. So watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come to this point. And I'm going to make notice of this going straight across here. So I'm lining up this line and I'm putting a mark here and a mark here. Come up to the top of this circle. You'll see what I'm doing here in just a minute. Bottom of this circle, top of this one. I know I'm out of sight over here, but there I go. So for those of you that have background fills and haven't been using them, reference this and watch it several times if you need to, because I want you to get the hang of how to make these work for you. So right now, I'm going to that line. Now remember, I'm out in a margin. and I only need a partial circle. So I'm lining this up on that side. I'm lining this up with the top where I made my line. And this is going to be my circle. So I go clear out into the margin. I really wouldn't need to use this. I could just dance up that outer edge because I'm coming up to this line and I'm going to do a partial circle. So you can see when I line it up with the top of that one right there and I line it up here, I'm just going to be making I didn't get it quite lined up. Hang on, guys. There we go. This time I'll show you how I could just go up this way to that next line. And all I need is a circle. This needs to line up. I need to go just a few stitches more. There we go. There's my purple line. So I'm lining that up, lining this up. I'm going up to the next purple line because none of that's going to show. Lining up over here. When I was designing these templates, I wanted them to be so you didn't have to pick up a bunch of different rulers and markers and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's why all of this lineup is built into it. So now you can see how just doing that extra little bit there finished this pattern on these rows so that it went across. So let's see if it looks any brighter on the back side. You can see our center there and how we did that background fill. So even though there's an interruption of this is still working its way across there. And now when you start this side, which you'll notice I even flipped it upside down, we will be able to do the same thing. So let's just do one row so you can see how we do this. It's pretty much all we've already done, but I'm just going to make a line right there because this bottom part is going to be a circle. So there's an etching right there that's going to go on that line. Line over here. And just like that circle was almost a whole circle, I'm down in the bottom, out in the margin, coming back to that top. Move this up, line it up, make a straight line, pull it through, line it up, do a circle. Uh-oh, went too far up into the circle. So fortunately, I caught it at a spot that's good. So what I'm going to do is show you how I'm going to correct it. And if it happens to you, you'll know how to correct it. Okay, so I've got enough thread here that I'm going to bring it right back to that spot. So I don't want to break these. I just want to unstitch them. So now that they're unstitched, I'm going to pull up my bobbin thread because I cut it. So it's going to be the same length. And it's enough that I can do something with. Now, just so you know, there have been times when I have stitched farther into my mistake just so I could get enough thread. Now, it's not like I needed to do that. It was just one of the options because I could have stopped and not broken my thread and pulled it out to the side to get it. but it's just kind of one of those things that you can do pretty easily. And then you'll have your thread. So now that I've got both of my threads up here, I am going to do our knot like we normally do. It's going to be tricky, but I'll be able to do it. So I've made my loop. I'm going to get my side threading needle and pull that down, and then go ahead and put it back through there to bury that knot. Now, once that knot is buried, the next one here, because I'm into my design, I'm going to come into exactly where I was stitching with that foot down, and I'm going to pull that thread up just so I've got control of it, because I'm probably not going to tie it. I'm going to go ahead and check my length. So, yep, we're going to stitch back over this, just a couple stitches, and we will then be able to just cut that off. And this time, maybe I should give myself a little warning. That's a few stitches before I need to stop. Get back there. Okay. I'm going to come back out and back down. Knot off and cut. And because I back stitched here, then I can just cut that. So you can see right here is where I went too far into it. So that's what you're going to be doing. The same thing. You're going to come over here and do another row just like we did on the other side. And it will be a nice fill on the back. And I will go back in and do a design. So next time we meet, I will have this finished up so I can show you something else and show you this that was finished. So if there aren't any more questions, I see a couple asking what template it is. Again, it is my background fills template, 2-inch.
The tweezers you must have used, are those on your website?
Yes, these are. And these are the best $12 you'll ever spend, you guys, because they close completely at the bottom. So when you go to grab it, it looks like a shadow there, but they're closed all the way across the bottom. So I don't even look. I just go in there and grab it. And so these are from Famore, and they are on my website. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Keep your ears and eyes open to what's going on, because I kind of miss being able to teach. And for the next 2 months, I'm going to be at home. So you never know when Donelle might throw in a class. So if you haven't signed up on my Facebook page, I would love for you to go over there to Sew Donelle. It's SEWDONELLE, and sign up to get our information so that you'll be able to know what's going on, because it might come out a little bit more in the future, quicker, I guess, is on that website than it might on the other, or on that Facebook page. So I'll turn this over so you can see it here from the back. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon somewhere. Bye now.